Hey guys, tonight we slip into something a little more complicated. The air is thick, the room is quiet, and there she is, half your age, twice as curious, sipping her drink a little too slowly, eyes flickering over to where you're sitting like you're a riddle she wants to solve. You've noticed it before, not just once. There's a rhythm to it, a second longer than polite, a half smile when your eyes meet. She looks away fast, but not too fast. You probably won't survive this, by the way, because once you start noticing the look, really noticing it, you'll never be able to unsee it again. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments. Always fun to know who's wide awake with me right now. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Section 1. You don't expect it at first. You're checking your phone, minding your business, maybe fiddling with a glass of whiskey you've grown too old to enjoy neat. Then there it is, the lingering look, not the kind of glance someone throws out of politeness or accident. No, this one holds. Like she's reading you, memorizing you, placing bets with herself. You look up, she doesn't flinch, just tilts her head slightly. That half-second delay before the turn away, that's your first breadcrumb. You'll brush it off. Most men do. You'll tell yourself it was nothing, that she was zoning out or looking past you, or, my personal favorite, that she thought you were someone else. Let's be honest, if she were a 42-year-old dentist from Phoenix, you'd probably shrug and move on. But she's not. She's in her 20s, smart, energetic, eyes like she just invented summer, and she's looking at you like you're the twist ending of her favorite novel. Now here's the thing about eye contact. It's been weaponized since ancient times. The Romans believed that the eyes could cast spells. The evil eye wasn't just superstition, it was cultural currency. And while historians still argue whether the Romans truly feared eye contact or simply used it as a metaphor for social power, one thing's certain. The gaze has always been more than vision. It's a language. So when you feel her eyes settle on you again, this time while she's mid-laugh with her friends, don't ignore it. That flicker of connection across a room isn't just social noise. It's a signal, a check-in, a whisper through glass. And it's not just about if she looks, it's how she looks. There's a weight to it. Maybe her pupils dilate. Maybe she holds her breath a beat. Maybe she smiles only with one corner of her mouth, like she knows something you don't. All of it is microcommunication. And the brain? Oh, it's wired to decode it. Fun fact, during World War II, British spies were trained to read expressions so well they could detect lies at customs counters with just eye movement. Fringe tidbit? One of their tricks was tracking blink rate and gaze duration, a skill oddly relevant to your Friday night encounter at the bar. Back to you. You notice her again at the corner of your eye. She's pretending not to look now, studying a painting on the wall, a wine menu, her phone. But every few moments, the look returns. It's not just admiration, it's inventory. She's wondering, how old are you really? What do your hands feel like? Why do you seem so calm when everyone her age is still performing? The irony? She doesn't even know she's doing it. Attraction often starts beneath awareness. The subconscious nudges the conscious mind. A girl grows up idolizing her father's confidence, a professor's steadiness, or a mentor's patience. And suddenly she finds herself tracing the wrinkles on your forehead like they're battle scars from a world she's still learning to survive. There's a calmness to older men. Not all of them, sure. But when it's real, it's hypnotic. You're not flustered. You don't overtalk. You don't need her attention, which is why it comes. That gaze you keep catching? It's filled with unsaid questions. She's wondering what it's like to be with someone who doesn't ghost after 3 dates, who knows how to change a tire and say no without flinching, who's seen enough to laugh when things go wrong. And it's not just her. You've seen it before. On the train, at the cafe, during a late-night gym session. There's a pattern, a flavor to it. Women in their 20s looking at men in their 40s or 50s with eyes that say, wait, why is this oddly attractive? Now let's be honest. Sometimes it's just curiosity, but when it's not, when the look lingers, that's when you need to stop pretending you don't notice. It's not about arrogance, it's about awareness. Because if you're oblivious, you miss the cue. And in these moments, timing matters more than charm. You don't walk over immediately. You don't wink. Please, never wink. You just catch her gaze, meet it, and hold it 1 second longer than you should. Let her look away first. That 1 second duel, it's primal. It says, I see you. And more importantly, I'm not afraid of being seen. If she blushes, you've won the round. If she smiles, lean in just a little. Maybe offer a cheers with your glass if the vibe's right. Or nothing. Sometimes just staying where you are, calm as a chess master, is enough to stir curiosity into intrigue. And remember, this whole game started without a word. That's the real kicker. The most potent signs of attraction never shout. They linger. They simmer. They happen in the slant of light across a woman's face as she studies a man who isn't trying to impress her, who isn't part of her world, and yet somehow is pulling her into his orbit. So the next time you feel the weight of a glance from across the room, don't underestimate it. The look might just be the spark you never saw coming. Section 2. You see her again the next day. Pure coincidence, or so it seems. Different place, same look. But this time she speaks. Hey, didn't I see you at that little jazz bar last night? The question lands soft, like she's tossing a pebble into your pond to see how far the ripples go. And just like that, you realize this is the beginning of the subtle chase. It's not some romantic comedy sprint through an airport. It's calculated, measured. She doesn't chase like a hunter. She orbits. You're the fixed point she keeps bending her trajectory around. At first, it's just bumping into you more often than chance should allow. Once? Sure. Twice? Coincidence. But by the third or fourth time, you start to notice a pattern. Maybe she shows up at the same cafe you frequent, or joins a friend group that suddenly overlaps with yours. It's like watching chess pieces shift slowly on a board, each move discreet but deliberate. You'll hear it in her phrasing. I didn't know you came here too. I've been meaning to try this place for weeks. Funny running into you again. All smoothed over with casual innocence, but her eyes give it away. She's scanning, checking your reaction, watching how you respond to this accidental proximity. She wants you to notice, but not too obviously. That's the art of the subtle chase. She's not throwing herself at you. She's allowing herself to be found. Historically, subtlety in courtship has been everything. In Victorian England, women used fans not just to cool themselves, but to send complex signals to potential suitors. Covering the left cheek meant, I'm interested, while twirling the fan meant, I'm taken. Historians still argue whether the average man ever truly decoded those messages, or just got lucky. And yet, some things haven't changed. Today, the fan is her social media. Maybe she adds you suddenly with no message. Maybe she likes a photo from 6 months ago, just enough to make her presence known. A digital nudge disguised as nothing. But trust me, it's something. Modern subtlety has just migrated online. You'll get texts that say things like, ugh, long day. Wish I had someone to split a bottle of wine with. And the unsaid part? Someone older, someone stable, someone you. But she won't say that last part. She doesn't have to. Pay attention to how she orients herself around you. At social gatherings, she's never too close, but always within view. If you move to the balcony, she follows 10 minutes later with a drink. If you laugh, she laughs a little louder. Her presence shapes itself around yours like smoke in a glass. Quirky tidbit. In Japan, there's a dating phenomenon called age gap love, where younger women openly pursue older men, believing them to be more dependable and emotionally mature. Some even seek out rented daddy cafes where men simulate fatherly roles. Not in a weird way, just in a quiet, grounding kind of way. Makes our jazz bar scene seem almost tame, right? So here you are, sipping your usual, when she brushes past again, a warm touch on your shoulder, not an accident. She doesn't need to linger, just enough to blur the line between intention and spontaneity. You catch her scent, vanilla, maybe something floral, and now she's linked herself to memory. That's another layer of the chase. She wants you to think of her when she's not around. The perfume, the hair twist, the inside joke she drops like a breadcrumb. It's not manipulation, it's presence. She's establishing a little corner of your mind, renting mental real estate with every, "Hey, you're here too." You might wonder why the effort. Why not just say it? Why the dance? Because the dance is the message. She doesn't want to risk outright rejection, nor does she want to flatten the tension with a bold confession. She's savoring the process, building something organic, letting it simmer. And you play along. Maybe you offer a wry smile. Maybe you ask how her day was. Let your hand linger half a second too long when passing her a cup. Maybe, just maybe, you start choosing your seat based on where she tends to end up. You're not chasing her, but you're also not running away. This balance, it's rare, it's delicious, and it's worth protecting. At this point, your routines subtly shift. You find yourself showing up earlier, dressing a bit sharper, wondering if she'll be there. You tell yourself it's coincidence, but deep down, you know better. She's created a pull, one that doesn't feel forced, one you want to lean into. And there's no grand declaration, no heart-thumping scene in the rain, just this slow, deliberate merging of paths, like rivers meeting after miles of meandering. Remember this, when a younger woman is drawn to an older man, the chase isn't about proving anything, it's about discovery. She's not just testing whether you're interested, she's exploring whether you're aware, if you notice, if you understand the dance. Because if you do, she'll keep showing up. She'll keep circling closer, dropping hints, opening space. And if you don't, she'll vanish, quietly, elegantly, as if she was never there at all. And you'll be left wondering if maybe, just maybe, you imagined the whole thing. Section 3. Now she's asking about your taste in music. Not hers, yours. And she's not just nodding along politely either. She's listening, really listening. You mention Coltrane, and suddenly she's quoting a Love Supreme like she's had it on vinyl since birth. You bring up a documentary about the Cold War, and there she is, 2 days later, casually referencing NATO like it was her major. And here it is, the contrast game. She doesn't just notice your differences, she leans into them. She begins to mirror your quirks, not because she wants to be you, but because she wants to understand what sets you apart. You don't laugh at TikTok trends? Neither does she anymore. You prefer bourbon to cocktails? She's suddenly curious about the smoky burn behind your favorite label. She's adapting, but with flair. And sure, at first glance, it might look like simple flattery, but look closer. She's studying the gap between your world and hers, and treating it like a bridge she's excited to cross. She wants to know what it feels like to stand in your shoes, hear the world with your ears, walk with the weight of your experience. The term for this, oddly enough, dates back to the Renaissance. Transference curiosity. Originally a psychological concept, it described the way patients would unconsciously adopt traits from their therapists. Today, historians still argue whether the same logic can be extended to romantic connections, especially ones with notable age gaps. But let's just say this, people copy what they admire. And you, dear sir, have become a walking syllabus. She doesn't need to understand your world right away. She just needs to enter it. That's why she watches that 1970s crime thriller you mentioned, even if she still prefers true crime podcasts. That's why she starts reading articles about finance or vintage watches or Cold War geopolitics. Not because she's changing herself, but because she's searching for overlap. One quirky example of this dynamic? In the 1980s, when Madonna dated painter Jean-Michel Basquiat, she reportedly tried to learn everything about postmodern art in a matter of weeks. The joke among their circle? She skipped art history 101 and jumped straight to grad school. All for a man who walked, spoke, and painted like a world she'd never lived in. Your younger woman might not be Madonna, but the instinct is the same. She's not threatened by your experience. She's drawn to it. Her curiosity is a form of flirtation. Every time she asks about a record, a writer, or that weird little cafe you used to haunt in the 90s, she's laying down a breadcrumb. She's saying, teach me something. Show me something I don't know. Let me see the world through your eyes just for a bit. But here's the kicker. She doesn't just take. She offers contrast too. Maybe she invites you to a pop-up art show in a warehouse. Maybe she drags you to a rooftop DJ set where the music makes your teeth vibrate. And somewhere between pretending to enjoy overpriced bao buns and trying not to yell over the bass, you find yourself appreciating her side of the world. Her energy, her openness, her ability to make chaos feel like color. That's the contrast game. It's a beautiful swap meet of perspectives. And it doesn't work unless both players lean in. You bring the depth, the patience, the stories, the subtle way you steer conversations with the confidence of someone who doesn't fear silence. She brings the fire, the laughter that comes too quickly, the thrill of a mind still forming ideas in real time. Together, you create a rhythm. You slow down. She speeds up. And somehow you meet in the middle. Two timelines folding into one. But let's not kid ourselves. There's still tension, because not everyone gets it. Your friends raise eyebrows. Her friends ask invasive questions. The world assumes the worst, and yet she keeps showing up, keeps engaging, keeps playing the contrast game, not to impress anyone else, but to discover what this could become. And you start to notice things. The way she switches from slang to stillness when talking to you. The way her voice softens around your name. The way she starts wearing that one color you once said looked good on her. She's tuning herself, not losing herself. And every time she does it, she's sending a signal. I see who you are, and I'm not afraid of the difference. I want to lean into it. This dance of contrast is ancient. In medieval poetry, older men were often cast as the wise seducers, admired by younger women for their gravity and grace. Historians have debated endlessly whether these poems reflected reality or fantasy, but the longing, that's timeless. So don't dismiss her interest as novelty. Don't assume it's a phase or a rebellion against dating boys her age. That's too simple. This is about polarity, spark, the beautiful, improbable electricity that crackles when someone who remembers the Y2K panic meets someone who's never used a landline. And if she's still here, still asking, still watching, still playing your songs on her way to work, then it's no longer a game. It's a dialogue. One that says, I respect the gap between us, and I'm curious enough to fill it. That's where real connection begins. Not in sameness, but in shared contrast. Section 4. You're both seated at the end of a long table. Some group dinner you didn't plan on attending. She's across from you, stirring her drink with a straw she clearly doesn't need. Eyes bouncing between conversations until they finally rest on you. So, she says, smirking, how did people even survive before Google? The T's wrapped in respect. It sounds like a jab, a light dig at your age. But there's a glint in her eye. Not cruelty, curiosity. This isn't mockery. It's affection wearing sarcasm like a hoodie 2 sizes too big. She's poking fun the way you tease a song stuck in your head, relentlessly, but only because it matters. Here's the real truth. When a younger woman is drawn to an older man, the teasing isn't just for laughs, it's a litmus test. She wants to know, can you take it? Can you dance in discomfort without losing balance? Can you meet her playful jabs with your own smirk and a deeper comeback? Because teasing is intimacy disguised as banter. And when she mixes it with real respect, when she calls you wise in the same breath she calls you ancient, you've entered a strange little territory. It's equal parts flirtation and admiration. A verbal sparring match where each well-placed jab says, I like that you're different. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Socrates often engaged in public dialogue where young minds challenged older ones. The idea wasn't to humiliate, it was to sharpen thought, test conviction. Historians still argue whether those debates were truly democratic or veiled mentorship rituals. But what's clear is this: respectful challenge has always been a form of connection. So when she teases you about your outdated playlists or about not knowing what Bereal is, don't get defensive. Lean in, laugh, fire back with something clever, not cruel, and watch her eyes light up like you just passed her secret test. Because the teasing, it's just the outer layer. What she's really saying is, "You're solid, I trust you. I feel safe enough to joke with you." And in the quiet moments, those little gaps between sarcasm, you'll hear the real things. She asks what you think about loyalty. She wants to know how you handled your first heartbreak. She drops the snark and suddenly it's, "What scares you the most these days?" No warning, no punchline, just real talk. That's the pendulum swing, from sass to soul. And here's where it gets interesting. The deeper the teasing, the more reverence she tends to hide beneath it. It's a strange psychological contradiction, but one supported by behavioral studies. Playful mockery is often a substitute for admiration we're too embarrassed to express. It's easier to say, "Okay, boomer," with a wink than to whisper, "You make me feel safe." One fringe fact for you: in medieval courtship rituals, jesters were sometimes sent to tease knights on behalf of noblewomen, essentially delivering roast flirtation as a form of attention. Weird, definitely, but effective. In your case, she doesn't need a jester. She's doing the roasting herself, lightly singeing your ego with every sideways glance and, "Wow, was that before color TV?" Crack. But after the roast, she's the first to brag about you, to tell her friends you're so composed or you've actually read real books. This duality is where things get delicious, because she's not just poking the bear, she's praising the bear. And you, for once, are realizing that being called solid is hotter than being called hot. There's a moment, maybe after dinner, walking to your cars, where she says something that freezes the air. I don't usually feel this calm around people. She doesn't mean old. She doesn't mean boring. She means grounded. She means, "You're the eye of the storm when everything else spins too fast." That kind of statement slips out when she forgets she's supposed to keep things casual. It's not a compliment, it's an exposure. So you respond the only way you know how. You smile, say something like, "Calm is underrated," or "Glad I'm good for something." But what you don't do is ruin it with bravado or shrink away from the moment. You hold space. Let her feel safe in that quiet, because that's what she's chasing. Not a sugar daddy, not a fantasy, not some sad ego trip. She's drawn to the presence, the patience, the eye contact that doesn't flinch, the replies that don't rush. She wants the person who doesn't need to prove anything, the man who's already lived through his reputation phase and now just is. You're not her trophy, you're her contrast, her anchor, her mirror. And the teasing? That's just the thread she pulls to see if the whole thing unravels. When it doesn't, she keeps pulling, but this time, closer. You might even start to enjoy it, the way she rolls her eyes at your music, only to hum the same tune under her breath the next day. The way she gives you grief about using a landline, then calls you on it. The way she acts like you're so outdated, right before leaning on your shoulder at the movie theater, sighing like she's never felt more modern. It's a paradox. She both mocks and seeks the very traits that separate you, because teasing is how she processes attraction without losing control. And respect is how she reminds herself that it's real. So when the next jab lands, maybe something about your knees cracking when you stand, just raise an eyebrow and say, "Careful, one day you'll miss these sounds." And watch her grin, because under the sass, she's already memorizing them. Section 5. You're both at the bookstore of all places. You wandered in because she said she needed to grab something real quick. That was 20 minutes ago, and now she's trailing her fingers along the spines of books she's only half reading. She's quiet, not her usual chirpy self. You crack a joke about how bookstores are like adult toy stores for introverts, but she doesn't even smile. That's the glitch in her cool. It's subtle, but unmistakable. Her composure, so fluid, so playful just yesterday, has cracked. She fumbles a sentence, bites her lip. She asked something personal, almost too personal for the moment. Did you always know what you wanted by this age? There it is, that glitch. It's not a trap, not a test. It's a moment of vulnerability she didn't plan on sharing. Her guard slips just for a second, and you see what's behind it. A storm of questions, nerves, curiosity, and the very real sense that this, you, might be more than a passing interest. This glitch doesn't scream. It doesn't knock over furniture. It flickers, like static in an old TV when the signal almost clears. And when it happens, don't rush to fix it. Just notice. Witness it. Because for younger women attracted to older men, these glitches are where the truth sneaks in. They're used to being in control. Social media has trained them to curate every angle. Dating apps have made flirting a game of strategy. But with you, there's no script, no algorithm, no timeline that says how this is supposed to work. So the glitch comes when the walls can't hold. It might be a tremble in her voice, a pause before answering a question, a rare silence after you compliment her. Not the polished thank you, but the awkward shuffle that says she actually felt something. There's even a term for it in psychology, cognitive dissonance attraction. It's that moment when what you're experiencing doesn't match what you expected. She wasn't supposed to catch feelings, not for someone with a mortgage and a preferred doctor. But here she is, staring at you like you just cracked her code. Historians still argue whether age gap relationships ever followed traditional courtship scripts. In many cultures, ancient Egypt for example, older men were often sought after for wisdom and power. But love, emotional nuance, those rarely made it into the records. Yet here we are, in your century, in your life, with this woman, looking at you like you're the missing chapter. Because despite everything, she does feel something real, something rare, something worth the risk. And what's funny is, you glitch too. Maybe you stumble on your words when she compliments your handwriting. Maybe you suddenly worry about your graying temples, or whether your references are too vintage. Maybe you catch yourself smiling at your phone a little too long after she texts. That mutual disarmament? That's the bridge being built in real time. So what do you do when she glitches? You don't fix it. You don't flirt it away. You match it. You meet her with presence. You soften your voice. You share something equally raw, nothing performative, just true. You say, I didn't know what I wanted at your age either. Honestly, I still don't know some days. You'd be surprised what that kind of honesty does. It's like rain on dry earth. Suddenly things grow where there was only uncertainty before. Because what she wants most isn't a savior. It's stability, not in the financial sense, in the emotional sense. Someone who doesn't flinch when the mask slips. Someone who makes space for her stumbles without rushing to sweep them away. And when you give her that, you become unforgettable. You're no longer just the older man with charm. You're the one who saw her during the glitch, not just the glow. So the next time she asks you something strangely deep during what was supposed to be a light afternoon, don't deflect. Don't joke your way out. Just stay. Stay in the moment, in the pause, in the beautiful, broken, vulnerable beat between sarcasm and truth. Because that's where real connection lives. Right there, in the glitch. And now, here we are, 5 signs later, and you're still with me. Eyes a little heavier, thoughts maybe drifting back to her. That one look, that one phrase, that strange moment when something felt different, when the air shifted and you weren't sure if it was real, but it was. That's the beauty of it all. These signs we've traced together, they don't shout, they whisper, they tug gently, like a sweater thread caught on a doorframe, just enough to make you turn around and notice what you almost missed. So if you're lying there now, lights dim, a slow fan stirring the air around your ankles, let yourself exhale. There's nothing to chase, no performance required. The signs will come when they come, quiet and curious and a little chaotic. You just have to be present enough to see them, calm enough to hold them. Let her glance linger. Let the teasing land. Let the questions catch you off guard. Because in the stillness of your presence, she finds something most people her age can't offer, a sense of gravity, of time, of meaning. You don't have to be perfect, just real, just there. And if she's the kind who sees all that in you, who slips past the jokes and the differences and finds the quiet in your storm, then maybe, just maybe, you'll catch her glitch too. That's when you'll know. Now rest easy, my friend. Let the sounds of the world fade just a little more. Let your breath slow. Tomorrow will come with all its noise and neon. But for now, you're exactly where you need to be. Good night.